Okay. Hi. Oh, you're muted.
Am I?
There we go.
So how are you both doing? Hi, Nicola.
Hel- Hello, hello. I'm just gonna
Hi.
go.
Hi, Nicola.
How you doing, darling?
Blessed love. Thank you both so much for being here today. I'm just gonna ring in the crew to come through and nudge the group. So just give me a moment, all right? You both look lovely. The lighting
Oh,
is fine and I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, just allow me a few moments. Let me just nudge the group to come on in, okay?
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, greetings, everybody. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi,
Hi,
greeting.
Julian. Hi, Echo. We're just waiting a few more minutes for a few more persons to join. So make yourself comfortable, grab something to drink, something to munch on, and we're going to dive in a bit. Thank you. All right. Blessings and love, everyone. I think enough of us are here to begin. Greetings again, everybody. As most of you would know, I am Jamila Falak. I am your regional youth leader at the Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance, and I'm always so happy to be here with each and every one of you who are able to join us as we explore this month's theme, which is Root to Rise, Youth, Land, and Regenerative Futures. We're in the season of spring, so it's a time for renewal, rebirth, fresh starts. And so, as youth leaders, this is very much important for us to. It gives us a chance to reconnect with the land, the wisdom of our ancestors, and to regenerate our movements, our communities, and our spirits collectively across the Caribbean, Africa, and to an extension, our partners. We're deeply honored to have two powerhouse speakers with us here today. We have Nicola Shirley-Phillips, a leading voice in Caribbean permaculture and spiritual ecology. And we have Natalie Armitage, a fierce earth justice consultant and yoga teacher, bridging racial justice and climate action. And so I'd like for us to just start off with some housekeeping matters as well. Please, if you can, turn your cameras on so that we can connect. We're in a virtual space, so it'll be great for us to see our lovely faces, hear our lovely voices. If we can unmute our microphones when it's time to speak. If you have a question, just raise your hand. You can use the huddle there and just indicate if you have a question or utilize the chat to share your questions there. And I'd also just like to welcome all the warm and lovely newcomers who we have here today with us. It's a pleasure to have you for the first time with us. And a special shout out to our returnees as well. I see you, Delano. I see everybody who's a part of the Carfield family. And if you're new here, welcome. Please come back again. And so without further ado, I would want us to just root to rise. So it's important for us to ground under this theme. And so I'd be guiding us through a meditation and breathwork exercise to root into the theme of regeneration. So make yourselves comfortable if you're sitting, be present in your body, and let's take a moment to arrive fully. I know some of you might have been rushing here, so just leave behind whatever busyness you had and just come into the space and root into yourself right here, right now. So close your eyes gently, lower your gaze into yourself. And if that feels better, take a deep, slow breath in through your nose. And a soft, easy breath out through your nose. Again, inhale deeply in through your nose. Rise your chest. Your belly will expand. And exhale through your nose, letting go of any tension or worry. One moment at a time. A deep, nourishing breath in through your nose. And a full releasing breath out through your nose, releasing everything, pulling your belly in and letting it go. Now allow your breath to fall into its natural rhythm. Just notice it. Flowing in through your nostrils and flowing out again through your nostrils. Like the ocean tide, steady and eternal. Bringing your awareness to your body. Feel the chair or whatever surface you're sitting on ground and support you. Feel the earth beneath you. Strong, steady, holding you up. You are safe here. You belong here. You matter here. Now, with each inhale, imagine yourself breathing in light, bright, golden, loving light. And with each exhale, breathe out again through your nose anything that does not serve you today, any doubts, any fear, any heavy energy, breathe it all out. Make space for lightness. Make space for new beginnings as we open this youth hub session together. May we plant seeds of unity, water the soil of creativity and innovation, and shine the sunlight of purpose on all we envision today. Let's each silently set an intention for this time together. Maybe it's to listen deeply, to speak from the heart, to uplift and inspire, or simply to just be fully present. Trust that whatever your intention is, it is enough. You are enough. We are enough. Ubuntu. I am because we are. Take a final deep breath in through your nose, holding gratitude for this space, and slowly exhale through your nose. And when you're ready, bring your attention and your consciousness back into your body and gently open your eyes, bringing your presence, your gifts, and your beautiful lights into this meeting. Ashe. So welcome again, beautiful, lovely people. It's such a great honor to be here with you guys again. And we're in the segment of our ice-breaking session. So we're going to just go around the room real briefly, and we're going to just share one word that reminds us of spring or regeneration. So anybody wants to go first? And if not, I'll just select someone. How about you, Delano? You're muted. Oh, and
Yes.
before you start, Delano, just tell us where you're from, one, which country you're from, and then you can share, and your name.
Okay. I am from born Trinidad, childhood in Venezuela. My name is Dilana Rapsi, and yeah, I do a lot. I try to do a lot for community. So that's me.
Amazing. Did you share what one word of regeneration and or spring means to you?
Well, interestingly, I think that the weeds on the ground, uh, uh, instead of them looking bad, they just look good to me because they just spring up. They're all over the place. They add diversity to the whole ecosystem. And with the rain, they just proliferate so much. It's really nice to see them. You could pull them out and just convert them into liquid or normal fertilizer. And they're just beautiful and underappreciated, especially during such a time when they so abundant like spring.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. How about you, Stephanie?
Hi, okay, my name is Stephanie, and I'm originally from Toronto, and I'm living here in Jamaica right now. Let me think. Okay, a word that I'm thinking is holy time when it comes to spring.
What
Yeah,
was that holy time?
holy time. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. How about you, Anthea?
Good morning, everyone. And thank you all for being here with our wonderful Jamila, who's hosting. So thank you so much, Jamila, for making this happen as usual every month. Much gratefulness to you. Um, I'm going to pick up from where Delano, because he inspired me. I was going to say something else. I was going to say appreciation, but now I'm going to use the word purpose, because I believe, just like the weeds, that everybody has a purpose on the value chain. No matter who you are, large, small, and different, no matter where you come from, there's always a purpose. And, just like the weeds, there's a purpose, and we all have to value each other and what we bring into the space. And so when I think about spring, I think that about purposefulness and about making sure that we recognize each other within that space. So thank you.
Okay. And this is our CEO at the Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance, everybody. She's very modest here, but this is the lovely Anthea McLaughlin. Thank you, Anthea.
Thank
How
you.
about you, Nicola?
I have to remember to unmute. What's coming to me, it's two things. Well, one, I love spring. It's very inspiring. And the other word that really was coming to me was ecological restoration. That's, yeah, ecological restoration, because spring brings that. We've been in kind of hibernation, and so when this, the cycles change, it's about, restoring, regenerating. So that's what it's all about for the next cycle, which we'll talk about later. So it's all about that for me right now.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
How about you, Natalie?
I was thinking about blossoming. When I think about spring, I think about everything that was planted for quite a while after it's started to grow, and you start to see the flowers, and you start to see the fruits, and you start to see things that were only imagination for quite a long time.
Amazing. All right. And share where you're from and your name.
My name is Natalie. I am from the UK, but I live in Jamaica at the moment. And I'm an earth justice consultant, which is an ambiguous term, but I do a lot of different things. And I'm going to be talking a bit more about that later.
Amazing. Thank you for being here again, both you and Nicola.
Thank you.
And Davia, over to you. Davia, are you here? Julian. Oh, it's so lovely to have you here, Julian. Oh my gosh, hi.
Hi, good morning, everybody. The reason I just showing my face is because I was driving. So I just got in, went on my computer. Okay. I'm Julianne Lee. I am originally from Jamaica, currently based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. My one word, well, it's actually two. Growth and evolution, because especially for spring and summer, that's when most things grow at a faster rate. Things grow all the time, but grow at a faster rate. And especially when it comes to the environment and things like that, everything is going to grow. We have to know what to do with it so that it grows properly and that it does not, get away from us, more than we can handle and things like that. So I always think of growth and evolution when it comes to spring and summer.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Thank you for sharing and thank you for being here. I know we had an interview that I wasn't able to make the other day, so I'm happy you could make the
This is something
second.
that I've always had an interest in. So the fact that it came together and I found out about you guys, and especially after the interview, I said, okay, Professor Hamilton sent me this. So I said, okay, let me check it out. So I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for being here. Ako, did you catch the question? I saw that you popped off and popped back in. Is it just me or is she frozen? She's frozen.
Yeah,
Okay,
she's frozen.
she's frozen. Yeah, she might be having internet issues. So what we're gonna do is let me check in on Davia again one more time. Davia is here? No, she popped off as well. All right, so we're going to go into the segment when they, or if they're able to join back, we'll come back to them. And so we have two lovely powerhouses here with us today, as we have already established. We have Nicola Shirley-Phillips, who is an ambassador for the natural world, dedicated to reconnecting people with the earth that sustains us. She's a co-founder of the Source Farm Eco Village and director of the Source Farm Community Development Institute. As a Yoruba priest and sought after spiritual medium, she has launched several regenerative programs across the Caribbean, including the Ujima Natural and Organic Farmers Market and the One Cocoa Farmer Training Program. Nicola is also behind the first regenerative and organic research station in the Caribbean. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming the one and only Mrs. Nicola Shirley-Phillips.
Wow, what
Welcome.
an introduction.
Yes.
To remember all, you do all these things, and we're like, oh yeah, I forgot we did this.
Right.
When we recap. So thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this discussion and this collaboration. I'm really excited when I can kind of be in a room with like-minded folks and just to kind of share what we've been up to. And so I'm excited about that and really interested in hearing what everyone else is doing because we all come with a divine purpose. So it's nice to be able to see how we can, where all the intersections lead, because it's, as I say, in many, one hand can't clap. And so I'm always looking to see who else is part of that, the work that we do. I'm not sure. I mean, do you want me to, I have a little PDF thing. Do you want me to talk about that? Or I know you sent me some questions. How would you like us to move forward with the conversation?
So we definitely love to know more about the work that you do at the Source Farm. And if you could just talk to us briefly about that, that would be great. And then we just go into our Q&A segment after.
Okay. Is it any way to open up the share? And I
Go
could
ahead.
just go that way. Is it open?
Sure.
It's not open yet, but
Can you open it, Jamal?
it's open. It's open now.
Okay.
Okay, this will help me. Can you guys see all of that?
Yes,
Yes.
seeing everything.
All right.
Didn't realize I was muted. Apologies.
No problem.
Go ahead.
So I mean, I don't know how many of you know a little bit about, well, I guess I'm here to kind of share a little bit about Source Farm and its inception and then kind of the work that we're doing. So we started the intentional community around really 05, 06, 05 and 06. We were actually on the ground in 06 and 07. And I always like to tell people I have two stories that I tell. There's a one story that is kind of like the public facing story, and then there's another story. And because you mentioned that I'm a priest, I feel I can share with this group the really what happened. So that will help us actually speak really quickly about the information that I've been getting over the years and why we were kind of led to do this. So in 1999, I had my first Akan reading. Long story short, my sister had gone to somebody and she had had an experience and I was really nosy. And I said, oh, let me go see what this is like, thinking it's some kind of like tarot thing that the person would be doing. And I ended up going and getting, the first thing they said to me, and it was an Akan priest, and it was Nana Daddy spoke and said that I'd be part of starting a village. And I was 25, so very much, I would say, a youth, because I just opened a restaurant in Philadelphia at the tender age of 25, not really, you just do things you don't know, you don't know, you don't know. So I opened a restaurant in Philadelphia, and I had a lot of challenges. And so the questions and stuff I was kind of hoping to get some guidance on was around the restaurant. But then I was told about a village. And, at 25, you don't know anything about this, being a Black person, kind of like born into, Jamaica, and you just come and see things, and you didn't really think about how things get started. So I was like, what the hell are they talking about, And I kind of just discarded that information like some kind of craziness. Because who starts a community, who starts a village, and being a restaurateur, a chef, what does that have to do with anything? And so years passed, and all kinds of stuff started happening, and a lot of synchronistic things happened. And here we are with 63 acres of land, and a lot of people coming to us and saying, oh, we have this beautiful piece of land. Why can't we, get a hotch on it? As we say in Jamaica, the little, space. And I said, oh my God, that's what that person was. And this is about 20, this is in 2007. That, people kept asking us, and were really serious about us doing this. And I was just like, what the hell are they talking about? And I'm like, oh my God, that's the thing that they talked about years ago. That's what's happening. And literally, after looking back, I'm like, oh, all these are some synchronistic things that were happening is what led us to this point. And actually they said, in the initial conversation, said in 2010, people be living there. And sure enough, January 2010, we had other people other than myself and my husband on the land living in community. So a lot of the work that we end up doing is really spirit-led. It's very much, I feel, orchestrated. I'd love to take credit for all of this, and I know that it would be impossible for me to do this, to even take credit. I've just been listening and physically manifesting the things that they've asked us to do. So we don't even, as a matter of fact, as a group, we don't even remember how the name Source Farm came. It just popped up one day and we started using it. No one in the group, in the family group or the larger group that came together to create this entity, Source Farm, actually remember. So I think it was somehow, it just appeared and we started using the name, and it's really been quite a source of a lot of connections has happened with it, and very much trying to bring people back to the source. So, this is the work that we do. One second, I just want to minimize this a bit so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, great. So, trying to reshape Jamaica's landscape through education, right exchange, and ecological stewardship. And I feel like there is definitely a guiding body in terms of the ancestors really wanting us to shine some light on areas that is a lot of area of darkness, and reminding us that we're supposed to be trying to take care of this beautiful, beautiful, not just the island, but the world that we get the chance to be incarnate in. So I'm excited that we get to be part of that awakening, because I feel like we've been in darkness for a number of years. So really quickly, the source is kind of made up into two parts. It's like the source farm, the eco village where we're living. And it's really, for us, living here is a daily practice. So it's not just about living physically on the land, it's about our deeper connection to each other and how do we interact with each other. And then also the interaction with the land and how we're stewarding it. And every day is a practice. Every day we have to okay, are we living up to all the things that we say we're going to do and what kind of like the ancestors expect us to do? So we're constantly in a practice around that. And then this other arm, which is the community economic development, is the outreach arm for the various projects that come to us or things that we see that we need to remedy or, assist in. And so that's the outside kind of work, and we have inside work, outside work. So those are some of the things that we do. And you can see we have our source farm community. In the eco village, we have about 25 members. Some people live here physically all year round, and some people are kind of transitioning to get to us, where they're retiring or they're trying to figure out other livelihoods to be able to move here permanently. And so we have new people coming in each year. We try to get at least one person coming because it takes a while for people to integrate. So we're in the process of doing that work as we speak. We have had our newest member that has built is Dr. Mackenzie. And then we have some other people that are transitioning slowly in, Valerie and her family. And also there are people that are also renters that rent here, that live here. And they're also trying to navigate the space. And then we have a number of people, the young people that we're trying to figure out how to bring them on in a permanent basis with housing. And so that's a big work for us the next couple of years, is to build more infrastructure in the Eco Village so we can house more people that want to come in. And then we have the other, I put on here, Ujima Naturals community, which is, for those of you not on island, one of the projects, community development projects that we did is created the Ujima Natural Farmers Market, and it's the only so far kind of natural organic market on island. And we're hoping that we'll be able to to have more locations and actually have distribution. So we might talk about a little bit of that, you know. So, yep. Again, our mission is to reconnect people to the natural world and just more a sustainable, holistic approach to living and being in community with each other. So, you know, some of the challenges, you know, we talk about, you know, what I've been seeing is really a disconnect. And even this week, I've been doing a lot of work with the Ministry of Agriculture on a project it's called Genesis, and interacting with a lot of people, I have to say, a number of people in Kingston this week. I said, oh my gosh, you know, there is really a disconnection that's happened. Like, people are not connected. And we know that for us in Jamaica, a lot of the things that happened in terms of, you know, what happened to Indigenous people, and then people that were brought from different places all over the world to be on this island, that the work, a lot of work was done to disconnect us, whether it's not allowing us to celebrate our Indigenous roots by the ceremonial practices, or by even drumming, or just that deeper connection to earth has always been about that extraction. So a lot of the things that that you see as how the system has designed us is about disconnection and about extraction. So any agricultural work, any land work is always about how we can get the biggest yields and the most yields out to send it outside, or to not utilize it properly. No regeneration. It's just about what yield, you know, what yields are. And one of the things that Spirit said to me one day, whenever humans go after the natural world for profit, all that follows is destruction and devastation. And this is what we're feeling right now. In our souls, many people are having that disconnection with their soul purpose, the disconnection and I would say, even desertification of the internal self, and also just the landscape. When you see bare soils, you just see all that disconnection, because if you're connected, you understand that nature is always going to want to cover itself and want to take care of itself. And when we see that there is a lack of understanding and knowledge. So there's a disconnection and a continued disconnection from nature that is supposed to be taken care of. It's that we are divinely connected to nature. And what I see happening is us moving further and further away from nature and being connected into a kind of artificial intelligence that is not even allowing us to really touch the soil anymore. So that's one of the things. So what we're trying to do with the work that we do is to really co-create and create a balanced way home, and to reconnect us back to the natural world. And so I've been kind of coining a thing called OI, organic intelligence, to really let people, you know, to really think about what they're doing, to get them off of that artificial, this technology stuff that we keep, you know, we are used and being forced to move in that direction, and realizing that everything that they've been trying to do with this AI is really about copying, or trying to copy the organic intelligence, which is just naturally around us. And what's also interesting, I've been having conversations with people And I realized that they are really disconnected from the natural world. They don't understand that like we are divinely connected by the fact that the foods that we eat, that each plant that we even consume, whether it's a carrot or a beet or whatever, is plant medicine, and it's there to connect with us in a very special way to allow us to function in the biological life form that we have. And that whenever we get more and more disconnected from it, is that we are losing touch with who we really are and this being part of this divine planet and the grid that it is we're supposed to be hooking up to. So the work again is about how do I, and the rest of people at Source and all the people that come in and out, how do we continue to create opportunities for people to get connected? So maybe it is trying to get people to eat whole foods at the farmers market. Maybe it's about having people come and spend time at the 370 acre land that we have as a research station and be able to walk through that space and get reconnected. Maybe it's when we have different workshops and stuff, or hosting the permaculture courses to again allow people to reconnect in that way, to really understand what their purpose is on earth. Is not just about running around making money and doing all these things, but actually, why are you coming here to what's the connection here? What's the divine purpose that you have here? And reconnecting in that way. And yeah. So again, I was just talking about some of the programs that we do. We're doing the 1-1 Cocoa program, natural farming program. That is part of a permaculture course. We normally have a permaculture course first so that people can be grounded into the natural world. And then we do the organic farming training, because what we find is people want to just go farm, but they have no idea about the natural world and what they're supposed to be trying to nurture when they're doing any kind of farming practice. So we have to start from the beginning. And I find that permaculture is a really beautiful basket that houses so many different disciplines. And when you can get a chance to connect to those, then when and design something that's appropriate to the ecology, then you are going to be more successful for yourself and being in line with what the planet is requiring at this time and what it is that you need, because you're part of the planet. You're not disconnected. So we do that. There are some other if you're looking on the screen, there's like a couple other things that we participate in. So we've done the Jamaica Sustainable Farm Enterprise Program, which is kind of it was a USAID program that we went around the island and looked at and brought in 70 different volunteers to look, permaculture volunteers, organic volunteers, anybody doing regenerative work on island, to kind of share their work and their wisdom. And we continue to work with them on different pieces of the program, because we really want to spread this across not just Jamaica, but across the Caribbean. We are now Heart trainer for organic vegetable certification. And within Heart, we're now looking at doing some work with the cannabis. We did the first cannabis training on island. We're looking to do more of that work. And also pharmacognosy, which is like really studying about herbal, being able to certify people on doing various herbal medicines and that kind of stuff. It hasn't been taught yet. We're going to be the first ones to do that. And I'm hoping 2026, we get a chance to launch that. We do a lot of appropriate technology work. And we have our own little podcast, the Farmer to Farmer program, where anyone that wants to know a particular thing, we look for global experts and we bring them on a conversation so they can have that linkages, so they can look at best practices. Okay, I'm just seeing something that popped up. Okay, we do a lot of collaborations right now with Tuskegee, because they have an organic program, and Dr. Mortley and other professors that are doing organic work, we work directly with them as well. So creating e-learning, also opportunities for people to do their master's and PhD work at Tuskegee. We're now embarking on the Genesis Soil Improvement Project, which is currently going around the island. We did the eastern portion last year, 2025, where we taught 11 different improvement strategies, organic and permaculture side of the island doing that work. Working on the bamboo project this year, and also my hands were all blue last Sunday because we were in the indigo in the workshop doing natural dyes. And then we have the collaboration with the University of West Indies, the research station, and just other entities that want to do work with us. So I don't know how much time I have, but we do the farmers market, and we're working on our distribution, an online distribution hub. And then I just showing just the other kinds of work that we do. Breadfruit project, papaya leaf, cannabis, the fungi work, and a tropical plant nursery, and also the people seed project. I'm going through this really fast so you can ask me questions. And then one of the things that I wanted to bring up, because all of this wouldn't be possible. Like sometimes when people come and visit us at Source, they're like, oh my God, they look at the infrastructure, they look at the different projects. But the most important thing for us is really about our emotional development. And I'd like to always highlight that because, you know, we've kind of been trained not to work together as a people. I feel like in Jamaica, like, you know, the bad mind and the fussing and the arguments and that kind of stuff. And I think one of the things that's been very successful for us is because early on, we realized through doing a workshop with Diana Christian that we needed to have a methodology for how we were going to communicate with each other. And so when we first started out, we worked on using a formal consensus process that we would use. So there's a methodology for how we would work with each other, meet, and when we had conflicts, how do we kind of deal with some of those conflicts and stuff. So we had that as kind of like the foundation piece of the work that we do, so that when we were designing something or doing something, we had a process. And that was very empowering. And recently, we are learning how to move into sociocracy, which is kind of a little bit of a hybrid of that formal consensus process. And I think for us at EcoVillage, we kind of straddling between both of those methodologies and kind of creating our own kind of hybrid thing that is appropriate for Jamaica. We have done a conflict resolution work within, because we're always looking to see what are best practices that we can bring in to our space to help us, you know, navigate just the daily challenges, or just to know what else is it, that tools that we can try and test and also recommend to folks. We rely heavily on traditional African wisdom because that's kind of how it came to us, is through that divination that happened with the Akan, but also with the Yorubas. We constantly are looking at, you know, what wisdom information they want to share, how we can tap back into spirit to actually do the work they're asking us to do, and not just work. We're like, oh, we want to do this. Is this the right work? Is it the right time? Is this what's being supported by the universe at this time? So being able to tap in and ask and check in is very important for us. We also do a lot of I Ching and Taoism. Everybody on Source knows how to divine for themselves. It's a good way for them to check in and check their egos or check where they're going. So we use that methodology. We use a lot of agreements with people that we interact with and work with, the state of grace agreements, building of we agreements. So we have very clear agreements about what we're doing, what is our expectations, that kind of stuff, to make sure that we all are in alignment with what our purpose for the particular projects are. It's very important to us that we do that. And then we just have our meetings and circles. We do a lot of circle work with the various, whether it's in the Ujima Farmers Market, because we're always working. So if it's admin circle or the membership circle, all the different circles that we have, we kind of meet, and then we have a general circle that we meet. So we really are always looking at collaboration, because we're moving into this next era, which is about collaboration, right? Age of Aquarius, about how are we all going to work together. And so we always are looking at how we're going to collaborate and making sure that people feel included, and we manage all the expectations. And then, of course, just looking at our, you know, economic and interpersonal forecasting. So I could go on and on, but I would want to leave some time so that we can open up for conversations. So that's it for me for right now. I'm going to stop sharing and then open up for conversation.
Well, maybe don't stop sharing the slide just yet, because I saw
Oh.
you put up the or impact section.
Oh, wait, okay. I wasn't sure because it
Oh,
felt
you
like
took it down already. I just
well, I can put it back up. I just go back to, wait, how do I go back to the sharing thing? Wait.
the toggle is right down there. But as you do that, my question to you would be, first and foremost, this is why you're one of the most important persons to speak to in the space of Caribbean connectedness, and the work that you're doing at Source Farm is because, as we know, a lot of us are from Africa, right? And so I feel like your work has been so true to the reconnectiveness that's missing across the board. And so I must applaud you for listening to your ancestors and stories and just, whatever anybody else would call it, your intuition or, just listening to do the work. And to bring everybody else into the mix of it and source out collaboration and all of that. And I guess my question leading into where you were going would be, could you just tell us one of the most impactful projects you've seen taking root through Source Farm?
Well, I would have to say, I mean, there are a number of things, but if I would say outside of Source, it would be really the farmers market. Because it really has impacted so many different people. Well, first, okay, so the farmers market started out of really trying to, well, really, it came out of a kind of a little bit of a selfish thing at first, because when I came back to Jamaica, my health was horrible. And actually the doctors there told me if I didn't get out of the US, I probably wouldn't survive. A lot of health issues. And so I was just looking for food for myself. And I realized there's no way I could farm everything. And so I said, oh, let me see if I could train up some other people, and then we could do a CSA or something like that. And as we started doing the training, we said, oh, we can't just put this food back into Coronation Market. Let us see if we could have something for ourselves, especially the price point that people, higglers wanted. We were like, no way, we're not going to sell you this beautiful produce for like nothing. And so that's how the farmers market kind of started. And so we were able to impact the farmers that were in St. Thomas. So it's really like a community economic development strategy of doing organic farming and then going to Kingston and setting up, right? And so the farmers would get direct prices, they get income for their labor because they really were being ripped off. And so I'm making that connection. So you should know who's farming your food. So for me, that's a major impact because it affected obviously St. Thomas, because St. Thomas at the time was very, and was really left behind. Nobody was really interacting with St. Thomas very much. And so it was almost like us coming to town, playing Robin Hood, right? That kind of coming in and selling our produce. And then that had definitely impact on the communities that each of these farmers were coming from, right? So income, increased income, and then that ability to actually even train other people around them in organic principles and practices so they could get more produce. So definitely I see a bloom from that first experience. Then we come to Kingston and we realize, and see how many people have all these health issues as myself. And so when I see a person come into the market with the lists from the doctors, the number of doctors that will send them to the farmers market, and they're looking for this and they're looking for that because they have whatever health challenges, that to me is like amazing, right? Just to know that we have created a space that they can come and get clean, healthy food for themselves. That's a huge impact, because think about it, if the market wasn't there, what would we do? I know I would have a problem, even though I'm not physically, because I'm doing the Genesis project, I'm not in the farming like a month, last year I was farming more at the research station. And this year, because I'm running around the island, I haven't been in the soil as much, which is making me very sad. I'm like, oh, okay, one more year of this training and then I can get back to my farm. But yeah, it's a huge impact. And to know that we want to obviously have other sites on the island, but also I think by me going around the island is allowing me to look at other people that I could now partner and collaborate with to have markets in different places. So we've been starting to have that conversation, because there should be hubs. We had originally planned, when we had the USAID before the whole thing fell apart, that we would have a hub in St. Anne and also something in maybe Trelawney or St. James, because we actually have people that come all the way to Kingston for food. We're having that, or we have to ship them food all the way. Or when somebody comes off island and they have cancer and they need to do juices or whatever, they don't have to they don't have to come all the way to Kingston to the market to eat food, right? Because everything else is just like sprayed up. So for me, the biggest impact has been the farmers market, and I'm so grateful. It has its ups and downs and challenges and all that stuff, as all things, because always going to be obstacles on any road that you choose. But it is still, after 13 years, it's still surviving, and hopefully we want to make it thrive more with this distribution project that we have, that we've been struggling with, trying to get funding for it so that we can actually start putting sending things out to other folks that really actually want to participate with us. So for me, that's the biggest impact. And then everything else, being in the eco village and seeing it, people actually here, and that's a huge impact as well, just to actually. So for me, I'm very grateful that, and it's funny because you say, listen, I didn't like come into this kicking, I came into this kicking and screaming, because remember, like, Jamaica is a very Christian space. So here it is, I'm hearing voices and ancestors speaking and telling me to do things, and I'm like, oh my God, am I crazy? So that also, you said that before, and I'm like, if you only knew, it took many years for me to acknowledge and to accept that, there's a deeper connection. 400 years of placing us in this area does not disconnect us from the thousands of years of this ancestral wisdom and work that was there. The ancestors go back far, and so just because we've been taken over in this space, are we not still connected? And do I not still have to listen to what the ancestors have been saying through my DNA? So I just want to throw it in there as well.
Thank you so much, Nicola. I must say that I'm not at home. I just came from a farmer's market, and now I'm here at a coffee shop with all my produce, if that helps anything. But what it tells you is that I can say, living in Trinidad and Tobago, that it's not a burgeoning business. It's like, this is what people are connecting to now. They want to connect to the natural world. You use different terms I've never heard before. So thank you so much, Nicola. I've heard farmers market, but I really haven't heard the word organic intelligence before. This is something I've never heard. And for me, there's a quick question. I know you're going to have a long answer, but I'm going to ask you for the short answer, and then we're going to have to come up with another session at some point. But in what ways can philanthropy support organic, intelligent-based initiatives that invite people into healing experiences on the land, such as farm walks, regenerative, what you talked about, agricultural walks, workshops, etc., to foster what you've been talking about, which is, personal resilience, community well-being, ecological restoration. What can we do? Short answer,
Well,
and then we'll do the long answer.
Sure. I mean, to be honest, all those things are important, and in all the spaces that we're in, everywhere. I mean, it's so needed. I mean, something as small as just taking people on a nature walk, creating those opportunities for that to happen. It's a major thing. People, think, oh, it's just this little thing, but creating those opportunities for people to reconnect. Farm tours are important because people, you kind of have to hit people where they are to make it a little sexy for them to get out of their, comfort zones. So those kind of things. I mean, for us right now, my biggest challenge is there's two things I'm working on. One, I'm working on the permaculture course that we're having in Kingston. I took it from the source farm as a residential course, and I'm taking it into Kingston because I'm like, we desperately need people to take it so they understand, just to even help them navigate the time that we're in right now. They need it. And so trying to figure out ways to make it affordable for folks. I was just talking to somebody yesterday about like, all right, let's break down every single thing that we need to do for this course, and let's see if we can get people to donate or have, maybe it's a copies, because we have to print out something, or put everything on flash drive. We need flash drive, whatever it is that we can do to make that happen, because there's a number of people that want to take it, but it's just not, and I still have to pay the teachers. So that's one. But I think that what everyone can do is, even if you don't get like, okay, there's a guy that I know, Arunde Magnish, And when I first got, he's here as an elder. And he said to me, three people show up, work with those three people. And so it might just be each of you saying three people, maybe people you know, people you don't know, I'm gonna go and have a meditation, or I'm gonna go do a walk. And sometimes we feel like we have to do these big crowds, and so maybe it's not. Maybe right now we start with who is available and who's interested in doing the work. And from that, the thing grows, right? And what I know is that despite how the disconnection is happening with people, the energetics on the planet is signaling people to look at a different way, right? We who are like the first adapters and the people who are a little bit more awake. I'm not saying we're great awake, right? Because there's a lot of stuff coming down the pike that we're going to be, that the Spirit's been telling us, like, oh crap, wait until you see what's coming down the pike. But if we are the kind of the first landing, the people who are kind of awake right now, let us create opportunities. So when those people are there waking up, they have things to plug into. So that's, I think, one of the most important things right now is like, how can we all help? Start small. That's a permaculture principle. Start small. Start creating opportunities for people to get that access. So maybe it is a meditation, maybe it's a hike, maybe it is these calls, maybe it is, hosting a permaculture, even if it's a weekend conversation and training. Each of us know how to do something, right? It doesn't have to feel like it has to be like everything that Source does, because Source is not just Nicola. Source is a number of people that are here and people that are also coming and flowing through that are offering different things. But each of us have something divinely that we came here to do. So what is that thing that you came to do? And for us not to be afraid, but to step into it, and the universe will support it. And I think that's one of the things that when I meet a lot of people, they know they have something to do, but they're like, oh, I'm not sure. All hands on deck at this point, right? And for all of us to really step into our power and start doing the work, or continue doing the work, or not being afraid of doing the work, to step into it and start doing that work. And so other people can feel connected and say, oh, okay, this is happening. Because think about it, if Source didn't come and start, even though I did it kicking and screaming, right? Source didn't start, all the different things that we've done, people wouldn't have been able to plug into.
Can I
So
stop
I'm
you 1 second?
saying,
Can I stop you 1 second, Nicola?
yeah.
I'm seeing photos here on the screen. Is that your spaces? Is that your space or some of
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Or
I'm
work
gonna
that
just,
we've done.
okay, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut you and just say that we have a philanthropy forum coming up in Jamaica where I'm bringing people from the philanthropic sector globally to Jamaica, right? So I want to talk to you about that and what we can do to bring them into this conversation and context of
Yeah.
Jamaica. Talk through your
Right.
lens what you talked about in terms of organic intelligence, etc.
Right.
So we'll have an off conversation, but I
Right.
think there is a strong connection, especially when we talk about collaborative philanthropy and connecting and building relationships. There's a link there, and I think we can build on that. So we'll talk some more about it. But thank you so
Right.
much. And I know that Jamila is going, oh my God, we have Natalie to come on to
I'm
speak.
sorry.
So go ahead. So go ahead. So go ahead,
We're
Jamila.
gonna
Do your
try
thing.
still.
Do your thing.
But thank you for sharing. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions, so we're gonna just keep those at the ending. But I'm gonna just bring on Natalie now. And thank you again for sharing, Nicola. I have so many questions, but we can talk off air. So yes, Natalie. We have Natalie Artram here with us. Armitage, sorry. She is an earth justice consultant, writer, trained pranayam yoga teacher, and wealth redistribution organizer living between Jamaica and the UK. She is a part of the Caribbean-led regenerative permaculture movement, and Natalie is a certified trauma of money method advocate, and she has worked in the philanthropy sector for over 15 years and now committed to reconnecting racial justice, climate justice, and indigenous wisdom to reimagine wealth and land justice in a decolonial framework. So without further ado, we're going to just jump into Natalie's section. And Natalie, how are you doing, my love?
I'm good. Thank you so much. Also, thank you, Nicola. I have been watching your work for quite a while, so it was very engaging, and I appreciate hearing from you as well.
Amazing. So, Natalie, can you just tell us how does your work with the and in earth justice relate to wealth redistribution and decolonization?
Okay, so I'll go straight in, but I want to mention first that Nicola mentioned it in her presentation about disconnection. And I think that this disconnection that Nicola speaks about with the land is also quite symptomatic as we relate to each other as people. So a lot of it comes from white supremacy and where colonizers had to disconnect from themselves first, and then all the people that they colonized and the very land that they stole. And a lot of that residue has been left in the way that systems have now been built around that kind of mindset and that system and that structure that hasn't fully been dismantled. So that feeds this disconnection and can often then leak into when we understand what the climate crisis is and how to fund it. So an example that I wanted to give is like I come from the global north. Should I say a little bit about like who I am, Jamila? Just so I think it's helpful to give context, particularly when we're talking about colonization, because you can see my face.
Yeah, I just read a little bit about you. So yeah, you could just definitely
Okay.
give a
So
perspective.
sorry, I also have to apologize if I blip out suddenly. This is the internet connection is a little bit shaky, but I will be back. So I predominantly operate in a global north philanthropic space, and I have done for quite a while. But I am currently based in St. Mary, where I also steward land where I'm living. And you mentioned I got my permaculture design certificate with Solidarity Yard, which is a fantastic regenerative farm in Jamaica. And I also developed the emergence of One Regeneration with Ro J. Malcolm, who is also now putting on courses around Jamaica that are predominantly Caribbean led. And I have seen Nicola through those circles as well and come to your farmers market many times. And I also so I practice permaculture for myself, really, but I am very interested in facilitating solidarity as well as connection between women farmers in Jamaica who are not always visible or kind of like available to find, but are doing incredible work where they live for each other and for themselves. I teach yoga. My ancestral practice and wisdom comes from India. I'm of Indian heritage, but my family came to the UK from East Africa, so from Tanzania. So my lineage involves farming practices from East Africa as well as India, where they were indentured. And applying a lot of that in Jamaica is really fulfilling to me, and also helps me practice yoga, which is a deep part of my upbringing, in a way that helps me understand the world that we're in, but in particular, our relationship with nature, the divine of nature, and how we choose to be in relationship with it. So that's like a little bit about my context, which helps when you can understand more about how philanthropy feeds into that. So, coming from a global north country, what I observed is that a lot of people talk about the climate crisis like it's something separate to us as well, like it's something that isn't an intrinsic part of human nature or our relationship with it. And they often, because of that, focus on external ways of controlling it or delaying it and thinking that that can prevent it. What it really does is replicate white saviorism, which is we are the destroyer and we take things away, but we are also the saviors and we will save the planet. And it really is a symptom of white supremacy and is further evidence of this complete disconnection with the land. We know when we start to heal that connection, that Mother Nature continued long before humans got here and will continue even after we're gone. And yeah, particularly white people aren't necessarily going to be the people who save the planet, even though they really believe they are. So because of that, humans have organized themselves around a series of these oppressive structures that are very deeply rooted in extracting from the land and positioning people in power. So, for example, white supremacy, patriarchy, colonization, and even agriculture are systems that have been long designed and are expected to continue functioning whilst we try and reverse or at least stop some of the effects of the climate crisis. And these things are like diametrically opposed. They're not going to be able to work together because one is in direct conflict with the other. These systems are actually also what are killing us and many other species on this planet. And if we're able to name them, we're able to understand where the erasure has taken place. And people say erasure, but I describe it as erosion because it's essentially long periods of eroding people's land, spirit, time, energy, in not one big incident, but over a long period of time that then shapes how we're really able to access some of this knowledge. So Earth justice is different to climate justice in the sense where it recognizes that humans are actually an intrinsic part of nature. We are a part of the living ecosystem. And the problems that we're seeing with the Earth is because of how we are relating to nature, which, as Nicola really explained, is a lot to do with disconnection and emotional disconnection as well. Earth justice requires us to understand ourselves as healing that and that we are a part of it. And so a lot of the work of Earth justice is focused on reconnection, as Nicola pointed out. Things like social justice, gender justice, racial justice, and land justice, and efforts to dismantle structures that oppress us are all part of Earth work. And sometimes people don't see them that way, but they genuinely are interlinked and intertwined. So therefore, wealth distribution feeds into that and is really a key part of addressing our role to play. Being able to move with a passport between the global north and global south country, I feel that my role in the wider ecosystem is to understand how I can dislodge some of that and assist in its redistribution across the global south and to countries that are still being drastically overexploited by the global north in order to like keep their way of living going, which is in direct opposition to the harmony of the earth, and in deeply embedded in extraction. So things that are included in earth work from a redistribution point of view are things like advocating for the cancelling of all debts to the UK post-colonization. There's still billions and billions of pounds that just needs to stop funneling to the global north countries in Europe. It can actually stop if enough people put a pressure on them, and to the IMF, and releasing global south countries from these colonial economic bonds that keep this kind of system of extraction constantly going. And I'm very focused on those. I'm connected with an organization called Debt Justice in the UK, which is fighting for exactly that purpose. And reparative economic justice is next. I spent a lot of time in South Africa working on this idea of reconciliation post-apartheid and healing racial relations. And what was really apparent is that without economic justice, a lot of these things can be arbitrary or perhaps not really like making any substantive healing efforts towards returning land, returning wealth, returning power that was stolen. So I speak about it in those terms. And as you can imagine, not everybody enjoys hearing it in the country that I come from, but they get subjected to it nonetheless. And that's kind of how I see that part of the work really intertwined with earth work and earth justice.
Got you. Beautiful. And so, what are some of the common misconceptions about philanthropy in an historical context when it comes on to exploited communities? Like, what are your takes on that?
I want to differentiate between like the Caribbean philanthropic space and the global north philanthropic space, because I think they're very different terrains. And I can speak directly to the global north for now. And I want to say that there's an ugly history behind philanthropy and how and why it exists. Like people weren't born with like millions of pounds to give away. Like they got it from somewhere. And unfortunately in the UK, a lot of them are descendants of slave owners, and they still have and benefit from this money. And so when we see the current dynamic of like givers of the funders and the receivers of the grassroots project who should be oh so grateful to get this money. We've got still this dynamic that's a little bit problematic between funders and grassroots, which really replicates white saviorism again, and is like, you should be so lucky to receive this money. We really want to change that. And I I think that that's something we can change, because at the end of the day, this is unjustly accumulated wealth, even if it doesn't directly come from slave owners or people who are descendants of slave owners. It's still accumulated often through products that we are addicted to that have caused a lot of harm in societies. It's sometimes like security systems that are sold through tech. There are a lot of policing relationships that are involved with where people get their money from. And sometimes we need to think about and just be real with ourselves where this money actually comes from. That is not to say you shouldn't take it or you shouldn't use it. That is not quite what I'm saying. But we can try to push our energy or invest our energy in a culture of divestment entirely, I believe, which is we don't want to be in this position of dependence all the time. We have to for whatever reason, but we can also portion amount of our energy to divesting completely. And that's why I really loved what you said, Nicola, and like how you were explaining at the Source Farm, because I think Source Farm is a really good example of this, of divesting from an entire system and showing an alternative that could work if you put the time and energy towards it. And that's actually much better for people's health and well-being. Philanthropists can sometimes not be honest about their role and the role of the ecosystem that they play, sometimes not be honest about the power that they hold, and can sometimes pick projects or groups that reflect the image of themselves. And I really wanted to sort of send the message that if you've ever been rejected for funding, this is of no reflection on yourself. It's often not even the project that's the issue, or the reason you want the money is not even really the issue sometimes. Sometimes it can be literally how the funder views themselves, where they want to be seen to be doing things, and it's really not to do with like the quality of the project or the organization that's applying for funding. So that's what I would say is a common misconception. If you don't get funding, it's because you're not good enough. And I think that's absolutely untrue. I've worked for funders where I can absolutely say that's untrue. It's a lot to do with strategy and direction of the funders. And that's something that grassroots organizations are often left to feel like it's their fault when it's not. It's really not. And as a result of that, I think solidarity between communities instead of competing with one another is probably the most effective strategy in order to divest from that system completely.
Collaboration is definitely key. You speak about the energetic exchange of money. And so what do you mean by this? How can us as youth navigate this form of a concept better?
This one's tricky to talk about, and I want to preface it with we were all born with like different relationships to money and scripts with money that may have been passed down through our parents or our grandparents. And I loved hearing about the emotional development course that Nicola does. I know that Solidarity Arts has an emotional sovereignty course, and this is really key in understanding our relationship to money and where it's come from. I'm going to use the word trauma, even though people associate that with like a particular incident or something very severe. But actually, there is a trauma that comes from capitalism. It is a system of oppression, like so many other structures of oppression, and it erodes us. It erodes us in lots of ways. So living in poverty, for example, for a long amount of time is not often labeled as a trauma, but it comes with a lot of experiences that shape your nervous system, including survival and how to respond to conflict. And that can be activated when we start to be in community and try and work in solidarity with one another. So this energetic charge that I talk about maybe is better illustrated through some examples. So if you are fired from work, for example, that can can cause a lot of problems for your nervous system. If you're made homeless out of nowhere, if you've lost a parent and you have to take more responsibility and pay more bills, if you've had a divorce, if you've gone through abuse and you've had to find a way to live without an abusive partner, if you have a child, these are all things that we recognize as life shifts, but not necessarily big financial shifts that really change how you relate to yourself. And they sometimes, more often than not, carry a big traumatic aspect to it because you have to shift the way you move through the world. So that's the personal and the interpersonal relationship with money. On top of that, there's the historical relationship with money. And if you've been over exploited by the capitalist system, particularly for African and Caribbean folks who have been literally stolen from for generations, when that money lands in your lap or you suddenly receive money, a variety of trauma responses can happen. And sometimes what I've seen that look like is wounds, deep generational wounds can get activated. And not everybody responds to that in the same way. Some people exercise their emotions through the money. So, for example, if you've been made to feel shame for having no money, when you have it, there might be a display or more effort in showing that you have it. And that's your way of dealing with that trauma. If you've been made to feel guilty for keeping money instead of sharing it with your family or your community, it might look like when you now receive money, you feel this urge to give it away and you're almost scared to hold on to it. I see that one probably the most. If you've been made to feel powerless by a capitalist system for having little or not very money, when you do have money, you might want to exert power with it to make up for that wound. And there is absolutely no right or wrong in any of this. These are very natural human responses to something that is very unnatural and inhumane, which is the erosion of people through capitalism. So it's naming that and it's understanding, okay, well, how does this then play out when we are all pitted against one another to compete for money? What this actually comes out as is, well, we see it a lot in conflict. So relearning conflict resolution skills, like Nicola mentioned, is a really fundamental part of us healing that relationship and healing that connection with each other and being able to receive money also. It's not just about trying to get it. There's a huge emotional response with receiving money. And that's why I really big up to these emotional development programs and the ones that really talk about this, because it is absolutely intrinsic to the land, and it's got deep historical roots to the land, so they can't be separated as much as we want. I think what I would really love young people particularly to understand is that there is a kind of way of being good at capitalism in order to survive the system, but that does not equate to being rich or having lots of money. I think we're taught to like admire or look up to people with lots of money from a young age, but being rich doesn't mean you are better in any way or that you're even doing better than other people. Inheritance is something that is almost impossible to tell who has it and who doesn't. People don't often wear it on their t-shirt, so this is what they've got. So you could be comparing yourself to people who have had a massive head start or a massive safety net that you don't have. And we don't get taught at school how to manage our money. We don't get taught about budgets or how to manage it. And when I talk about managing money, again, it's not about getting rich or being really good at business, even though must say that's a fantastic skill to have and definitely something that is to be admired as well. But it could look like, how do I save my tax every month so that when the bill comes, I'm not in a worse position where I'm feeling like not good enough because I didn't manage to pay it on time? How do I avoid like these deliberate potholes that capitalism lays out for you to feel like you're not good enough, when actually it's nothing to do with you? You're in a system that is literally designed like a maze that's basically set up for you to find really difficult and hard. So how can you talk to your community and how can you learn from other people and how they manage a lot of the similar problems? We don't have to carry the shame of capitalism that it's put on us. It's not our shame to carry. The biggest shame is on the people who extract from the earth and people for a living. There's nothing wrong with asking for help or asking questions around, how do I manage this better, and how can I look after myself with this money? And you'd be surprised at how many people really come through to help, because it's something that at some point everybody's had to ask themselves, and not to beat yourself up if you are finding managing money difficult or even if getting money difficult. It's not a reflection of you. You are in a system that is set up very much to encourage you to blame yourself, and it's really not on you. And that's really what I want young people to know, that navigating capitalism is like getting through a computer game that has given you a disadvantage from the get-go. You know, you're really trying to do something that's really hard.
Thank you
And
so much.
yeah,
Natalie. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Natalie,
Thank-
thank you so much for sharing such
no problem.
potent information about how to navigate such a space, right? I mean, we're all doing the works, and it's important to learn the flip side of it all as well, you know, especially as youth coming up in the spaces, in the different cultures, in this melting pot of a Caribbean, you know. So thank you for the works that you've been doing. Nicola, thank you so much as well. And I know Anthea has to run. So are you
No,
here?
so Natalie, please, when I say thank you so much, I don't mean to stop you. It's just that you were
I know you
sharing
have to
so
run,
many.
so I'm
No, no,
just
no,
checking
no. It's
in.
nothing. It has nothing to do with you. Just like when you talked about the realities of philanthropy, and and the realities around philanthropy in the global north. We have to understand, the historical, um, the historical realities around philanthropy, and then where we are today in 2025. And Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance is here to have these very difficult and transparent conversations, because I think that's what's important here. I know Jamila is just asking me just to share before I go the importance of coming on board to Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance. And I don't really need to say much more, because the conversation that we had today is what we need to have to get to solutions within the Caribbean. One of the things I can say, listening to both Nicola and yourself, is that when we talk about the Caribbean, one of the things that I promote when I walk outside and I'm in the global north, and I say all the time that we have so much to share, so many solutions that we're doing here in the global south that we need to bring back. We need to share with the global north. It's not necessarily that the
Definitely.
global north has all the answers. We have the answers here.
Absolutely.
And because we're small, and the scale, the scalability is small, we're able to test a lot of what works, a lot of the innovations within the Caribbean, particularly around climate, but more specifically around economic resiliency. We can share that with the global north, and we have to change our language and our narrative about how we talk about the Caribbean and our experiences. And what we did today is exactly what we need to share on the outside. But in order to share that, we also have to agree on the inside that this is what we want to share. And that's where Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance comes in. It's a network where of like-minded people, hopefully. We're not going to bring in people who we don't really want to bring into the space. We do like challenge, but at the same time, we all should be walking in one step around transformation of the philanthropic community across the region. It's all about transformation and change and improvement. And it's also, Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance is also about equitable resources, looking at ensuring that resources that are here and are not here, that when distributed, that is distributed equitably across the region, among our indigenous communities, among our most marginalized communities, and among those communities that need it the most. But in order for us to get to that space, we have to name those communities specifically, talk about their assets, talk about their strengths, who they are. All that has to happen. And it's not for me, Angela McLaughlin, to talk about it. It's for Nicola to talk about it, and for those who are there in the spaces, and for us to then take that loudspeaker and make it heard in different spaces. One of the things I want to even say about that in terms of how people hear us, we have to then couch our language in a way that people are able to accept it. So we are going to have to spend time with the Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance as an entity to understand the different nuances that we need to come up with, so that it's differently. And it's the reality of the world that we have to share it differently so that we can get what we want. And that takes sophistication as well, but it also takes consensus building, it takes collaboration and working together to get to that place. One of the things I would also say in terms of our membership, you would see, I was going to ask Jamila to put real quickly up on the screen the engagement. We have an engagement guide. Maybe it's a little bit corporate for this audience, and maybe we have to change that. But the intention of Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance, why we have what we call the giving affiliates, and then we also have the implementing partners of affiliate, is because we understand the importance of different voices, of divergent voices in the space. And I'm gonna ask her to share it with you so you guys can join Carafield so we can get to that place where we have everybody speaking within the space. So if you are in the space today and you are giving money, these are literally organizations that have resources and are able to share those resources to our different communities in the Caribbean. You are part of what we call the giving affiliate community. That's our foundations. Typically, you talked about, Natalie, you talked about those foundations, family foundations. We know where they got the money from, whether good, bad, or indifferent. We know that history, and we need to know it even more so we know how to engage them now in 2025. But so they're family foundations, independent foundations in particular, donors, those that have significant, lots of money personally, very much part of the foundation community. Um, actually operating within the Caribbean or working in the global north or in UK, Europe that give money to the Caribbean. We have the corporate, the CSR community as well, which is, of course, as we know, are the banks that are mostly what proliferate the philanthropic community within the Caribbean. Many of our givers in the Caribbean that give resources are from this space, from the corporate sector space. If you fit in that space, please join here. And then, of course, if you are in the space where you are an implementing supporter, you then represent the non-governmental organization space in particular, or you may just be independent contractor that's just doing the work, and you can choose. And of course, you can go, Jamila, you can show us the implementing supporter space, I think where most people fit. You don't have to go there where most people fit. And this particular space is to open it up for many of you who participate within our civic engagement community. And so it's broadly defined so that you can find your fit, and also to ensure that our organizations, which we call self-identifying, can participate within the Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance structure. And of course, change makers are those spaces and people who may not be able to provide monetarily to Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance at this point in time, but very much need and want to participate within the Caribbean Philanthropic Alliance. So there are many different places for you to fit, and you just have to decide how you want to fit. And the reason why I talk about it now, because Nicola, you can speak to this. You know, I haven't talked about membership ever in the past year and a half, over the last 2 years actually with Carafield, because we were thinking about, you know, how Carafield would operate and sustain itself. And so one of the ways in which we're thinking about doing that is through membership, and also helping people to be part of a community as well, that developing this membership community will give this opportunity to make the conversations that we have sustainable over time. The intent is that the conversation that we're having today, the Youth Hub, gets elevated more intrinsically, more deeply within a space of 3 or 4 or 5. So Natalie and Nicola, you spoke today very clearly about the different works that you're doing, but there's so much synergy between both of you. And this is where Carafield comes in, for us to deeply talk about what are those connections and how these connections can mushroom into something that works for our Caribbean communities, and where we need to get the money to sustain you. Philanthropy, yeah, it is about money at this point. And, you know, whether we talk about it from reparation, justice, wherever we talk about, the bottom line is that there's so much good work happening on the ground that needs to be fueled. And the only way it can be fueled is with resources. And we just need to think intelligently together about how do we get those resources to do the work that we need to do within the space. And so I really look forward to continuing these conversations, today's conversations in particular, with both of you, within the Caribbean Alliance family. And of course, the philanthropic youth hub that is here, that is live and well, led by young people, led by Janella, and led by I see Rika G here, I see Bellanelle Wilson. These are young people who Bellanelle she's in New York City. She's an NY student, and so what we are trying to do is to build a movement that's quite potent, quite rich, and we want to sustain this conversation and the movement that we have going. And so I want to say thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. And I'll just turn it over to Jamila to continue. And I look forward to seeing all of you very soon. And just to let you know that we have a philanthropy forum coming up in Jamaica in October. We're going to get the dates really secured at 23rd and 24th. We may move it to 25th and also the 22nd. And Nicola, that's where you come in, so we'll talk about that. But it's happening, and we're going to be having exciting roundtable discussions, etc. And all of you here are going to be very much part of that. So we will talk more specifically about that in the upcoming youth hubs over the next couple of months, I'd say. So thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Anthea, for that lovely breakdown, and have a great rest of day. I know you have to run.
Yes.
Let's not be selfish. We've been talking for a minute, so I'm going to open up the floor. I know we have a few minutes remaining. To anybody who might have any questions for Natalie or Nicola. Does anybody have any questions? I know Akko had fallen off at some point, and Davia, maybe you guys might have something you want to chip in and say before we close out.
I do.
Okay, Delano, go ahead.
Yeah, I have so many questions, like for both of them, because I'm into permaculture myself. Right now, a few years behind building my little haven for people to enjoy. And when I say they could call it their haven as well, right? But I also have things to ask Natalie, and that's because my family in Venezuela, they are pretty much a victim of poverty, extremely creative. Like one of them never had prior lessons in engineering or anything, and he used to make his own little moving parts, whatnot, out of pure creativity, right? And that was really amazing to me. Guess what? He never made it to be anything. And that's because of a certain mentality that is attained through things like lack of wealth distribution, proper wealth distribution. But I have so much to talk about. What I would like to mention, however, is that this session was very connected to me. And I would like to connect with all you better because I have too many questions. I wouldn't ask any right now.
Yeah, it sounds like we need a part 2. For sure. I'm going to open up this space again. Does anybody else have any questions? And like Delano, I have a lot, but I would like to share the opportunity. Akko, I see your mic is unmuted. Did you have anything to say?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Because of the very weak network, I've been off and on, but I managed to stay through. I want to say a big thank you to Nicola and Natalie for this very enlightening session. I happen to be part of Ecoversities. It's a network of, small groups that are into ecological conservation. And we had a regional meeting in Africa, particularly in Nigeria last year, November. And that was the first time I was attending that regional conference or meetup, and that was where I got to learn a lot about permaculture, and I really fell in love with it because my background is in tech, and I have not really had the opportunity to be close to nature as I live in the city. Although it's not really a big city, but there's little of land around me. So it was really nice to listen to Nicola and her farm and all of that, and the farmers market, which is not common here in Nigeria. I really love to see such innovations or such initiatives being replicated down here in Africa, and particularly in Nigeria. And also to Natalie, the idea of nuanced philanthropy is really what we should really look into. And when you talk about white supremacy, colonialism, paternalism, and all of that, really makes me think about what we in Africa are really going through. And one thing that has made that to even be worse is because we have very corrupt governments here that are making all of those to be amplified in such a way. So we have really been dependent on grants, and those grants are just like are given to us in ways that we must see them as really great privileges. But I'm thinking, how can we actually not do without the grants, because yes, we need them, but actually build a system where we can depend on ourselves. Just like I learned about time banking and some other our alternative economic systems that can really help us and also make us return back to our traditional ways of doing things, the same ways that our ancestors did, and were independent in themselves. So I was thinking of suggestions that can help us down here and to really use what we have and not be over dependent on the global north. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What's the name of the group in Nigeria, Ako, that you mentioned? Ako? Your mic is muted. Yeah.
My audios. It's a universal group. It's called Ecoversities. It's a network of groups that are concerned about the regenerative practices, ecological conservations, and indigenous wisdoms and all of that. So yes, that's a group that I'm part of, but I'm still learning of what I can do in my local community and how that can really help us here.
Could you share do you have a link that you could share to us?
Definitely, I have a link. I will do that. I would try and share it in the chat box.
Thank you.
So
Your hand, who is that?
yeah,
Yes.
my hands have a couple of things I wanted to kind of share and also mention. So recently I was really blessed to be able to go to Taiwan for the permaculture convergence and gathering, and also the IFOM, which is the International Organic Conference. Both of them are very interesting and very kind of different. They're interconnected in terms of doing work, but through different lenses. But one of the things that happened to me when I was on my way to the permaculture gathering, Spirit kind of sent me on a mission to find out. What they said was that pretty much is that as the systems are breaking down, we're going to be needing to midwife people back into the natural world. And you see it right now. Like when they said that was in November, and I didn't have any clue that this was gonna happen in terms of, you see the fallout from Trump being elected. And, it's all by design. None of this stuff is like new, it's by design. And so it's forcing us to know, a lot of people who thought they had security in a certain way with money or the cash that you're seeing, they thought they have it, and if it's falling apart, it'll continue to break down because it is by design that they're doing that. And as that is happening, who are in this space is going to have to step up our game to kind of catch folks and redirect them into ways of living in community and living back in the natural world. And one of the things that they were saying, like permaculture is going to be, like, I feel the way forward is permaculture. And I also feel like that's going to force us to reconnect with the natural world. And so we have to get prepared for that and start creating these opportunities for people. So the money is not going to be around, even though the philanthropic kind of way, I feel like that is kind of, you see a lot of the grants that were available, very limiting. It's not it's just not going to be available. There's no reason anymore to feel like they need to do this. They, like, all bets are off. And so how do we who are living in these spaces deal with the system? Because it was a kind of, the way how we look at our energy is really the money comes with our energy exchange. So, we had a challenge this week where the ministry promised us to fund something. They're not funding it. I'm like, wait, so does that mean that we don't have it? No. We now have to be creative in the ways that we're doing things. So I went through and I looked through all the things that I would normally have to spend money on. And we're going to now find other people that have those resources in a way that want to do that right exchange. So for instance, we need housing for someone in Kingston. Who wants to take the class in exchange for housing? We need copies made. Who has a copy machine that can make the copy, or flash drives to put the material on? Who wants to teach a yoga class and lead that thing in the morning? They get a chance to do that energy exchange. There's some things I have to do, like, because we have to buy the airline tickets, that kind of stuff. And I haven't gotten that far. I used to be able to exchange airline tickets, but I don't have that connection anymore. But this is what we have to do, is to start going back to those exchanges. The cash paper thing came out of those exchanges, right? So that kind of trading, how can we get back to trading for the most important things? And even at the farmers market, when we first started, I'm going to have them go back to that. What can we barter? At the end of the market, between vendors, we do that barter thing. I have bread. Who wants bread for kale? I have bread. Who wants bread for something? And we do that exchange anyway. And I feel like we're going to have to go back to those systems and start practicing those systems now, creating those systems, because we're going to need them. So we're looking at the next, they have a plan, they have their plan. And one of the things I love about permaculture, it allows us to really take responsibility for designing and planning our own lives, that we also need to be able to start to look at that. How are we going to navigate the space when the people who are operating in a certain energetics are not going to want to go sell their soul again, all right? So we have to, with the network, and we keep reminding people, this is a 2,160 year cycle of this age of Aquarius, which is all about how do we learn to work together again. Any goods and services, any things that we're going to, has to be done in a cooperative way, right? If we want to survive the time. This is what it is. It's just the energetics of the planet. It's forcing us to do that. And they also know this information because they have access to information as well. So if you notice, a lot of mergers has been happening and happened before. So they are kind of consolidating their powers through that cooperative working together. So they're doing it. It's just us who haven't been paying attention, have been kind of like, oh, let's fight for the few resources. We now have to come together and put the foolishness, that we've been kind of programmed aside, catch the vibration and realize that we can't do this alone. We have to work, not just with ourselves, but we have to reconnect back into the natural world where they're going to tell us where to move, where the ancestors and the plant spirit and all the other energies are on the planet. We're not alone. That they're there for us and they want to help us, guide us through this process. And actually, it's not even a revolution, it's really an evolutionary process that we're on. And if we understand that, then we can kind of tap into it and start to listen to the divine information that's here to guide us through this process. So as much as they talk about the climate change stuff, what Spirit's been telling me is that it's it's a not just a glow, it's a universal thing that's happening with a vibration. More sunspots coming out is forcing us to vibrate at a higher frequency. But if people tell you a whole bunch of bullshit and because they're trying to, disconnect you and let you tell you all that stuff, you're not going to tap into the evolutionary process that we're actually going through, where what Spirit is saying to me, some of the things that we need in terms of food, we won't need it because our bodies are actually going to be vibrating at different frequencies that we won't need. And I don't know if people are feeling it now. Maybe people are waking up at 3 o'clock. What's going on with that? There's something going on energetically. People are being led to different, more synchronistic things happening. People are seeing more things. All kinds of different things are happening. We need to be paying attention to these things because we are shifting and changing. Like our vibration is shifting and changing, and we have to be aware of it so that we can tap into those things that are going to lead us to areas of safety and not just kind of fall for I would say the okie doke that other people are telling us. Because one of the things they're doing with all of this cuts and stuff is about making us be fearful, right? We need to understand that we're in an amazing, abundant place. Like, through permaculture and through these different inappropriate technologies, we can be saving water, using water, all kinds of stuff to allow us to be operating more efficiently on the lands that we steward, or making those connections with other people who are doing similar work, accessing food, sharing food and bounty that's available to us, and just making that deeper reconnection. So I wanted to throw that in there. And then one other thing that's happening, because of that work that happened in Taiwan, there's a global communities,
Nicola,
group. Yeah.
I'm so sorry to cut you.
Sorry.
In the interest of time, I actually have to run.
No problem.
Think that we need a second session, preferably early on in May, like shortly after this one. We normally have the youth hub meetings every last Saturday, but if you both are open, I'd love to organize a Q&A session, especially for this segment, so that we can actually dive into the questions. Because I know we have Delano stated, myself, I just see how we could even all collaborate. And as Akko put on the table, it feels like there is so much potential here for, some form of collaboration and also exchange of information, in terms of what we can do collectively. So just let me know if that's something you're open with. We can also talk about it off the air. But in the interest of time, it pains my heart to stop the session.
No. Trust me, I will go. I will talk. So it's not a problem. And I do want to say, Natalie, I want to talk because there's some things coming up that I'd love to check in with you on as well. So absolutely.
Would love to.
Awesome. So can we all come on camera if possible? I'd love to end the session with taking a screenshot of everybody so we can have a picture. Let me see if I got everybody. Multi, is it multi? Yes, I think it's everybody. All right. Vincent, are you able to come on? If not, that's fine too. I'm gonna count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Got it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. This was incredible. Beyond words, we have so much discussion to do in our Q&A session. I'm going to reach out to everybody that was here today and also put it in the Youth Hub to just gauge timing. And we're gonna just continue the works same way. So thank you. Have a great rest of day. To Nicola and to Natalie, thank you so much for your time and the information. I know we all took away such incredible info to carry on to our work. And so I'm eternally grateful to you both. All right. So thank you. We will
Thank you
meet.
for having us.
Thank
Thank you for
Work.
organizing, Julia.
Thank you.
The God in me sees the God in you all. Have a great day.
Mm.
Peace.
Peace out. That's right.